Welcome back. Now for my in-depth conversation with nephrologist Dr. Merle Clark. She was in the hot seat as we sought clarification on viral news about Guillain-Barré syndrome and overall healthy lifestyle. There are so many myths and there's a lot of misinformation that one can encounter, especially on the World Wide Web. A lot of people are concerned about their health in this new year. A lot of people want to adopt healthy lifestyles, but we must address some of what you have identified as misinformation that could have people in a panic. We're going to talk specifically about videos showing raising alarm about new cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome. Tell us a little bit about what exists as it relates to that syndrome.
Okay, with regard to the video, I did see it as well, and there was an insinuation, not insinuation, it was said that Guillain-Barré is a new disease. Firstly, there's absolutely nothing new about it. It was first written about since the late 1800s, but officially in the 1900s, when it was first, we first started seeing, not we obviously, that cases were first seen. Guillain-Barré is a syndrome. Again, the other thing which certainly was a misinterpretation of the facts was the fact that it's caused by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. Now, we cannot emphasize enough how important it is to get rid of mosquito breeding sites and to prevent the proliferation of Aedes aegypti, which causes dengue and Zika and CHIKV and a series of other things. However, to say that the Aedes aegypti mosquito is the cause of Guillain-Barré syndrome is incorrect. Guillain-Barré can be caused by a series of things. It is mostly caused by a particular bacteria, and that is after somebody has had an infection. It's not caused by the bacteria as such. It is an autoimmune disease. So it's the body's response or over-response, in a sense, to a particular bacteria or virus. So in as much as after an infection with Aedes aegypti, which could be Zika, as I said, or dengue or CHIKV, somebody can develop Guillain-Barré syndrome. The mosquito as such does not cause it. It's the body's response to that, which is what causes it. So you could get it after, for example, a gastrointestinal infection, that's somebody who could have diarrhea, vomiting, caused by Campylobacter. In fact, that is the most common preceding event to Guillain-Barré syndrome. And also after any viral infection, the flu. In very, very rare cases, you can have it after vaccination, but that is extremely rare. And what essentially happens is you have neurological symptoms. So the patient will present initially perhaps with tingling or burning of the lower limbs in particular. It's what we call an ascending neuropathy. So the symptoms will start from the lower limbs and go up. Now, generally, it is self-limiting in that eventually that patient may recover or should recover. It can become fatal, however, when the muscles which control your respiration or your breathing are compromised. So if that happens, obviously that person is not breathing on their own, and that person, of course, that can lead to death. But a lot of the time, the patient can recuperate. It may take a long time, and treatment normally is in the ICU. And the reason you do that with procedures and medications, which can be quite costly, is to curtail the length of the disease in a sense, or to limit how long it's going to last, or to help the patient recuperate a bit quicker. So I just felt the need certainly to correct that, because there's been a lot of panic. The idea of the conspiracy theories that, of course, mosquitoes are genetically engineered and there's a new disease, and look how people could be dying from that. So yes, in the time when during the Zika epidemic, certainly there seemed to be a rise in the cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, but Aedes aegypti does not cause Guillain-Barré syndrome as such. It's an autoimmune disease. And I just felt we certainly needed to clarify that for our St. Lucian public.
Thank you so much for that information. Now, of late, have we been seeing cases
of Guillain-Barré syndrome?
Yes.
There will always be a few cases. Of late, I can't say we've seen any cases of late, but there is never a time when you will never see Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is where, again, the misconception that it was new. They've always I don't have specific statistics as such, but occasionally you do see it. Thankfully, not very often, but you do see it occasionally.
And what should we be vigilant about in terms of Guillain-Barré syndrome?
Okay, so just looking at how it happens, so what you want to be vigilant about is, of course, preventing the what precedes the syndrome, so preventing infections. So that is where the breeding sites, getting rid of the mosquito breeding sites, hand washing, so we prevent infections, gastrointestinal infections, ensuring the flu, getting your vaccine, the flu vaccine, so you don't get the flu or any viral or bacterial infection, particularly those that can be prevented, because patients with HIV also can develop Guillain-Barré syndrome. So it's a question of prevention, proper hygiene, healthy practices, and there's still the new year, the beginning of the year, so it's an optimal time, again, to encourage healthy practices. The chronic diseases are still a major problem, more so than the infectious diseases. So exercise, that's the time for the resolutions, and we hope that we're sticking to them. Healthy diet, exercising, hand washing, and just a series of actions that we all know that we should be doing, that we just need the discipline to actually do them. And that really includes all of us, Tottenham.
Certainly. And for me, even the struggle with exercise.
Right.
And I was speaking to a friend of mine about this. The new year comes around, you want to incorporate that healthier lifestyle. But for me and people like me who are anemic, I find sometimes when I work out, it's just a bit too strenuous. I get headaches. How can we adopt a healthier lifestyle when we may not necessarily be able to hit the gym for an hour, get on the equipment? What are some of the things that people like me can do to ensure that we're living healthier?
But in your case, for example, you mentioned that you're anemic. So we need to get to the root cause of the anemia, which is precluding your ability to go through a 1 hour workout. The truth is, a lot of people don't necessarily like to exercise. There are people who absolutely love it, and that's fantastic. But most of us will do it because we know we have to. When you exercise, you do feel better most of the time. But somebody, for example, who's anemic would not necessarily feel better, because fatigue tends to come along a lot quicker, shortness of breath, and a series of symptoms. So it's a question of finding the method that works for you. So not everybody has to be in the gym lifting weights and doing all of that. Simple cardio, and again, you don't have to be in the gym for 2 hours. 30 minutes of exercise. But if there is something, with some people it's back pain, in some people it's knee pain, find whatever works for you, get to the root cause of the problem, which is precluding your ability to exercise or to practice healthy eating habits, because we make a lot of excuses in terms of that. So we just have to find out, because in the end, what we do now, the impact, we will feel it later on. So we really just have to find a way to get around what the obstacles are and do what we all know that we're supposed to do. And I believe we all know it. It's just a question of whether we do it or not.
Thank you so much, Dr. Merle Clark. She's a nephrologist, always ready and willing to share with
Since
us.
you mentioned that I'm a nephrologist, we do have some exciting news coming up that we will be sharing with everybody in time to come. But just to mention that we do have a team coming in February. We've been talking a lot about transplants of late, and we're in discussions with that. The possibility, of course, of getting some of our patients off dialysis. Of course, transplant as a modality of renal replacement therapy certainly affords the patient a better quality of life than hemodialysis. So in as much as we are certainly looking to increase capacity at a ministry level, the capacity for dialysis, we are very seriously looking at the possibility of kidney transplantation and hoping to have that on stream certainly in the not too distant future. But once we have the full details of the team coming down from Europe, and there's another team also coming from Colombia, we surely will have that story for you as well, lovely.
So is this a national initiative, or are we looking at this on a regional scale?
For the most part, I think when you look at kidney transplantation, to bring down costs, because those are expensive surgeries and expensive meds, everything involved with chronic kidney disease treatment is expensive. So we would be looking at it on a regional level. They're coming here first. They've been to the USVI as well, but we certainly look to do everything on a regional level in terms of that. So all patients could benefit, and we get costs down and make it more a feasible venture.
I think we need to make this a regular occurrence, just so that you can keep us up to date on what's happening in the health sector, and of course give that advice to people so that everyone can live healthier, happier, longer life. Dr. Merle Clark, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Tennyson Glasgow is up next with the sports news.